So, hi LandRover people, we're on the LandRover again today. We've spent about 8 hours on it today. So what have we got done? Okay, let's start from the back right hand corner. That's had a bit of a coat of paint on there. The back cross members had a bit of paint. And what I did here was, these were holes. I'm not actually sure what they're for. I'll look at another LandRover somewhere, but anyway, I filled them in with some alloy patch. It's like a mesh stuff. And then glued that in, and then we've sanded it down so it's level, and then we'll fill it and make sure it fits okay. Then this little baby here, this is the I think they call it the mid strut, the tailgate mid strut. Now this is the one when you take if you take this down, take the hatch down on this. If you don't have your chains on, which are these little babies here. Some of the newer Defenders have, wire rope on here, but this has got chains because it's an older one. Right, if you don't have your chains on, then this mid strut here bashes on the tow ball eye because the tailgate falls down and it bashes, and then what it does, I'll just put this up again so you can see it. It bashes this tube, it's kind of a U shape, goes flat and then a U shape and then flat again. So what I've done is I've drilled all the welds out. And actually make them. I've got a new one coming, so that's going to get fitted on, and I'll probably use the original rivet holes if they're level, which they aren't, so I won't. So I'm not going to use that, so I'm not sure how to fit it yet, but I'll get that fitted on. Nice straight one. I put a bit of paint on there. There's another couple of holes where the old number plate, because the old number plate was bigger, so there's 2 holes either side. There's one either side of the number plate, so I've just filled them with a bit of alloy patch, and that's the back today. And what I've done is you can see my can of beer there, I've got a can of beer today. I've been sanding this down, the back boot lid, and it must have taken me about 4 years to sand down, I think, because this is where everyone stands. So this gets incredibly battered. Now, it's just got some matte black paint on it just to protect it, because some of it's bare metal, so I've got it all down. All the ribs look pretty good. So all the ribs are nice and straight there, and it's nice and flat. And with the right colour on it, which is going to be a light green colour, that looked pretty good now, especially when the ribs on and them holes are filled later on, so that'll be pretty good. So that took me about a good couple of hours to get that sanded down. You can see the top's nice and straight now as well. Yeah, we've got a nice straight top there. That's pretty good. And what I've done is I've filled I've actually filled the original factory rivets in on the top here. The reason is because it looks nice and strong when it's all filled. So I've done all that. Then I put a coat of paint on the back window on here. This frame here, because that was exposed a bit. I mean, it is aluminium, it's not steel, so it doesn't need protection really, but I had the paint there handy, so I put a back coat of paint on, then rubbed down the window with 2000 grit, and that's got the window clean, which is pretty good. So that's a good old window. And I did the same. It's maybe a bit dusty now, I'll just give it a wipe. The quarter lights, if you rub them down with 2000 grit, then look at those windows. I mean, they've only been done on the outside yet, I haven't done them on the inside yet, but those windows look pretty new. Then in here, because this is 30 years old, we've got some cracks in it, so I'll fill them, fill those cracks. And once this is dusty at the moment, it's been sat here getting sanded and stuff. I've got some special stuff that they fix tyres with. It cracks in big agricultural tyres and kind of, big diggers and stuff. So I've got some rubber to fill those, so they'll look pretty new. And once, again, what you do is rub these rubbers down with a bit of 2000 grit, and they come up like new. Look, I mean, they don't look new now, so they're blooming dusty, but if I wet that, let's see if I can wet that. There, they actually look pretty new. So that's pretty good. So I did that job today, and then I got these corners filled. These corners are getting a bit corroded and oxidised and pitted and stuff, so we put some filler in there and then sprayed that with, some primer. That's not been 400 yet. This is all 400'd now. So it's a bit dusty, mine, but 400 grit on here, so that's all nice and smooth. So I've got to go 200 up, so I've got to go to 600 to get it ready for paint. These are in, I think these have been done 800, so they can go plastic primered, but they've got another 200 to go. Then I've got to rub the rubber seals down with a bit of 800 to get rid of all that overspray. I did mask it, but you get overspray in some runs. And then I've done the roof, so the roof's done now. And the gutter. So we've done that gutter there and done the roof. There's a hole here I've got to plug that because that's where the spotlights came out, and I've got to fill these holes a little bit. So they've got to be done as well. I'll do that another time. Then another job we've got to do is these vents, because these vents are rubbish. They're loose, the seals have gone, so I've got to get new seals for them. Clean out that channel there when I get the seals out. I mean, they've been painted on before, look, so you can see this. This is actually rust, so I might have to treat that. And then these seals, I mean, these seals are just rotten. So this car will get wet inside because these are rotten. So I've sanded these down with 80 grit or 40 grit. But I haven't even got them flat yet. So these seals need taken out. So what you've got to do is take the bonnet off. And when you take the bonnet off, this flap comes up from the inside. And then there's two, I think they're there. There's two screws about there. You undo those screws and then knock these pins out. Now these pins have been painted in, look, they're all gammed up and stuff, so they'll take a bit of a bugger they'll be a bit of a bugger to get out, I would think. But anyway, that's how you get the flap off, and then you get the flap off, renew the seal, treat any rot here, because that'll be, you can get channels for this around here, so might have to treat some rot around the top there. Then what I've done, so this is alley plated, you know, the checker plate. I don't want the colour, I don't want the checker plate, I don't like it, but this does protect the bonnet. So I'm going to leave that on, and I mean, it does look pretty all right in the wings, but I just don't like this checker plate stuff. So I was going to take it off, but I thought if I paint it the same colour as the car, then it'll look all right. But this is where the damage gets on Land Rovers, because people stand on this bit, and this one's no different. It was absolutely dented to bits. So what I've done, I've knocked out as many dents as I can, and then I've filled it. That's only 40 grit so far, so it's not very, got a couple of high spots there, so I'll have to go over it with a big long planer type paper just to see if any, I mean, I've just put filler in now, so that'll have to be planed flat, because it's not flat at the moment, it's all wavy. And if you use too smaller sander, you just get waves in the bonnet afterwards, you can't get it flat, so I'll use the long planer for that. Then what else have we done? This panel's now 400 gritted, which is pretty good. Just felt a dent there. Oh, I've got a dent there, look, just there. Right, that needs filling, so we'll have to do that. And round the front, a bumper's not arrived yet, so I've not put that on. This is all 400 gritted, and round it, one of the, is it that one or the other one? I'll just go on the other side. That's that one there. So this one needs a heat gun on it to bend it out again, because that's actually sitting too low, that one. I'm gonna keep these because these are pretty good, so I'm just gonna heat it up and then bend it back to its normal shape. New grills coming on, plus new lights around, so I'm not saving them. Saving the new lenses because they're nice and pretty, so they're pretty good. And then on this side, I ran out of filler, so I haven't filled this yet, but that needs filling. There's lots of bumps in here. This is all wavy as heck, it's all a bit nasty, so I know you can't see it with the filler on, but it isn't straight at all, so I don't want to leave that like that. And on this side, I've got a couple of dents to do here, where the bonnet's been taken up, and then these two bits here have been catching on there when the bonnet's right up. This hinge comes out all right. I haven't had the bonnet off yet, but this one comes out all right, and that one is actually stuck. So I've got to put some oil in there to swivel it, because there's a little rubber grommet in there, and you've got to swivel it round to get the actual hinge out when the bonnet's vertical. So I've got to put some stuff in there, you know, oil in there to get it done. Then what else have I done on here today? On this side, we've filled a hole in there, taken all the rubber, there was a load of rubber stickiness off there, so the roof's all done. The tops of the doors have now been painted as well, and they're all 400 grit. I've just got a rough bit there, which I've got to flatten out a little bit. Then we've sanded all these down with 800 grit. Again, we've got to fill these rubber holes in. I'm not going to take these out because these are a bugger to get back in, so I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to renew these rubbers because they're quite solid anyway. You know, they're not going anywhere. I might have to renew this door trim because that looks a bit nasty, that. So I've sanded it with 800 grit. I know it doesn't look very clean on the video, but it is fairly clean when it's you know, wet and soaped. That's fairly clean, but I might have to change that rubber just because it doesn't look very good. I mean, no water gets in through it, but you know, it doesn't look very good, so I might change that. So I think, oh, and the channels are all now straight. So if I come back here, the channels are, you know, the boot channels are all quite straight now. Lovely and sanded. There's the back. All the windows look quite new now, with the surrounds done and rubbed down. They don't look too bad at all. I'm quite pleased with them. And of course the roof's painted in primer at the moment. That's starting to look like a straight Land Rover. Just go down this seam, you can just see it's a nice straight Land Rover now. It wasn't before, it was all bumpy and dented. I mean, there was dent everywhere and there was rot in all of these seams. There was rot. All of these were rotten, and all of this was rotten down here. All the paint was flaking off, and all under here where it always goes, under here was all flaking off and rotten. So I'm quite pleased with that. And look across the back, look, that's the boot lid, or the load bay lid or flap. So that's pretty good. On that side, it looks quite a neat job. That's not too bad at all, apart from the holes obviously, which I've got to fill. It's not too bad a job there. I've got a washer to get for the other side of this. There's a washer in there, a little sponge washer. So I'll get a couple of them because one's missing off this side. We'll get a couple of them. And that's the Land Rover today. It's looking pretty good. I've got quite a few bits arriving in the next few days. So I've got the rib for the boot. What else have we got? We've got the bumper should arrive on Tuesday. So that's coming with the rubber cappings on the end because they look quite new with the rubber cappings. So it's going to be it's actually a black bumper, but I'm going to spray it silver with the black cappings. That looks quite cool. I've got to rub down these indicators. I'll rub them down for now, then probably change them at some point to the little square smoke ones. I quite like them, little square smoke ones. These are getting painted black. So they're black on the Land Rover. So it's just been primed at the moment, and then 400 grit, and that's it so far today. So I'll give you a long shot of that. That's the Land Rover so far. She's a bit dusty because I've not cleaned her off because she's sat outside anyway. 400 gritted so far, the whole lot. Got a bit just at that bottom wheel arch to do. Might have to fill that because that's a bit of pitting there, so I might have to fill that. But she's pretty good so far.